do a little chest opener. So you might consider using a block or two underneath your head, adjusting the height of the blocks underneath your head, and then putting the ball, depending on the size of your ball, underneath your back. If you don't have a ball, you would just set up for our back over blocks situation, which would be the following: a block on low and a block on medium. All you have is blocks. This is the situation you're going to set up. But if you do have a ball, you're going to substitute the ball for the blocks that go underneath your back. So I set the blocks up or the ball up, have it ready to go behind me. And then when I lie down, I tuck that ball right up in between the shoulder blades. You can see the racer back here. It goes right where the racer back straps are, up between the shoulder blades. Settle into that. And then your head is supported on enough height, again, 1 or 2 blocks, customize that height so that your face is flat or your chin is lower than the tip of your nose. So chin is lower than your nose. And then make yourself comfortable. You can do this with knees bent, feet flat, feet apart, toes turned in, knees leaning together, arms open out to your sides. Or if it works for you to stretch your legs out straight, then go for that. Again, if you have back over blocks or back over ball, you want to have the blocks or the ball shoulder blade height. Having the blocks or the ball low enough down that your boobs point straight up. And then settle in. Find your breath. And feel your breath blossom into your chest. With your eyes closed and your attention turned inward. Focus, direct that breath into your chest. Continue taking those long, slow, deep, chesty breaths. And make sure your palms are flipped up towards the ceiling. Elbows slightly bent, elbows down, if you can put your elbows down on the floor. Palms towards the ceiling, and maybe even dive your thumbs down towards the ground. So your pinky fingers are up, your thumbs are down. Elbows are bent. Maybe your elbows touch down, maybe your thumbs touch down. Big chesty breaths. Expanding across your heart, but also the fronts of your shoulders. And then to begin to extend your arms overhead. Maybe keeping elbows down, maybe keeping thumbs down as you stretch your arms overhead. Kind of doing like a snow angel. And eventually maybe straightening your arms so you end up with your palms facing one another, thumbs down, palms facing one another, thumbs down, arms straight. Deep chesty breaths. And then reverse that snow angel. Soften your elbows, let your elbows, your thumbs drag across the ground as you bring your hands back down towards your hips. Again, palms are turned up. And once again, reverse snow angel, arms up and overhead. You're going to flap your wings, flying like an angel, snow angel, or San Diego sand angel. As you sand angel, flapping your wings up and down. Move slowly, breathe slowly, and synchronize breath and movement. You might consider inhaling as you take your arms overhead, and exhaling as you bring your arms down by your sides. How about 3 San Diego sand angels? And the next time your arms come down by your hips, return to normal, easy breathing. Then locate your right arm. You're going to take that right arm, drape it across your chest. So the right hand comes towards the left shoulder. Use your left hand to drag that right elbow across your chest a little bit further. Now with this arm draped across your chest, you do want it across your chest, not over your throat. The heaviness of your arm will sink down against your chest. And I dare you, I challenge you to breathe into your back ribs. Breathe against the ball or the blocks. And as you refocus your attention and breath, breathing into those back ribs, feel the stretch across the front of your right shoulder. Left hand is heavy, just dragging that right elbow across your chest and pressing your breath into the brick or ball, whatever you have. And then release, and we'll switch sides. Now this left arm comes across, left hand towards the right shoulder. Right hand finds the left elbow and drags it across your chest. Just let the weight of your right arm provide traction on that left elbow. Let that right arm be heavy so that left arm can sink down into your chest, prying open the left shoulder as you breathe into your back ribs. And at the end of your next breath, release. All right, we're going to go back to that right side. This time the right arm goes straight up, like you're reaching for the ceiling. Lead the way with your thumb, and as you do so, let your thumb angle down towards the floor, and then your palm angles down towards the floor. Eventually, you're going to try putting your palm down on the floor. Check this right elbow. You can use your left hand to swing that right elbow in. Keep it close to your head. And then again, let that left arm be heavy. And let the weight of that left hand translate through that right elbow down to your right wrist. Giving you a bit of a wrist stretch. And then release. And we'll do the same on the other side. Left arm goes up. You're going to turn that left palm towards the floor, putting that hand down on the ground, just outside your ear, outside your head. Right hand draws that left elbow in narrow, so that left arm stays alongside your head. And then just settle in. Letting the weight of that right hand translate through that left elbow all the way down to that left wrist. And then release. All right, give those wrists a good roll. Really flare your fingers. And reverse. Big wrist circles. And then hands come to rest on your front ribs. You may or may not have noticed those front ribs tended to move when you were moving your arms. Now the challenge is to repeat a number of those same moves without these ribs going anywhere. But first we have to learn how to control these ribs. So with your hands resting heavily on those lower front ribs, take a great big chesty breath. And as you exhale, let your hands get heavy. Press down, compress those front ribs. Now hold them in. Hands heavy on your ribs as you inhale once again to your upper chest, your upper heart. And as you exhale, hands are heavy, ribs really draw in to your spine. Third time's a charm. Big chesty inhale. And exhale, tuck those ribs in. Now, if you're ticklish, just imagine somebody coming by to tickle you in those ribs. It's that same guarding muscular action that you would have if you were ticklish and somebody came by to tickle you in the ribs. So front ribs are tucked in. Leave a spiritual set of hands on those ribs. Keep that heaviness on your ribs, even though you actually take your real arms overhead. Ribs stay down. Big inhale. Exhale, tuck those ribs in. Now draw your arms into the shoulder joint and then release. Arms in socket, out of socket. In socket, out of socket. Now, if you got that ball between your shoulder blades, it is much more comfortable than bricks, but this does work with bricks. Challenge is to keep those front ribs pulled in the entire time you do this. Playing around with arms out of socket, arms in socket. Arms are straight the entire time. You're just pulling the arm bone into the shoulder blade and then releasing it. Feeling your shoulder blades push into your block or ball and then release it. And as you do this, you're keeping your ribs tucked in the entire time and then being tickle tortured during the duration of this exercise. So one more time, arms in socket, front ribs plugged in, and then slowly bringing your arms overhead, palms facing one another. Thumbs diving down towards the ground. Only let your arms sink down towards the floor as far as you can go without your ribs poking out. The challenge is to keep those front ribs tucked in. And as you exhale, tuck those ribs in, pull those arms into socket, keep your arm bones in the shoulder joint as you bring your arms back to the starting position. And then release. One more time. Exhale, pull those arms into socket, keep those front ribs tucked in, bring your arms overhead, thumbs diving down towards the ground, arms narrow. Front ribs drawn down towards the floor. And bring it on up. Okay. Snow angel your arms out to your sides. Reach through your fingers, spread your fingers nice and wide. Turn your or dive your thumbs down towards the ground. Let your elbows come up. So elbows up, thumbs down. And then drag your thumbs in alongside your head. So you still have elbows up, thumbs down. Looking down from above onto you, you kind of look like a saguaro cactus. Okay? Can you do this without your ribs poking out? Uh-oh, find those front ribs. Don't be shy about taking a deep chesty breath and then exhaling, tucking those ribs in. Big stretch across your chest in case you haven't noticed. Elbows up is the challenge. Thumbs down. Saguaro cactus arms. Elbows up, thumbs down, ribs down. Big chesty breath. And release. Ha, 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 ha. Now we've been on this block for a while. You're gonna pick a side, roll over onto your side, and keep rolling over. Use your hands on the ground. All right, we'll come back to this ball in just a moment, so keep it nearby. But clear the rest of the clutter off the mat. Your toys nearby. If you need or would like some padding underneath your knees, this is a great time to put it in place. And come to hands and knees. Toes curled under. Begin with an inhale, lift your head up, lift your tail up, arching your back. And then as you exhale, pull your tummy in, tuck your tail under, arch your back the other direction. So inhale for cow. And exhale for cat. Notice the way I said exhale. It's like you're hawking up a hairball. Inhale for cow, elbows stay soft. Exhale for cat. With your toes curled under, you get a little extra toe stretch. Continue to move, waving your spine up and down, cat and cow. Notice that with your toes curled under, your knees are much bonier. They're easier to locate. And as you move back and forth through cat and cow, perhaps emphasize that action like you're dragging your knees forward to pull in your belly tighter emphasize that cat pose by dragging your knees forward. And then inhale into your cow. Keep your knees dragged forward. Never let your knees slip backwards. So each and every exhale is a chance to draw your knees closer to your hands. Now, of course, your hands and knees are on a mat. They're not actually going anywhere, but your abs will. Inhale into cow. Exhale into cat, dragging hands and knees towards one another. Feel that belly button pull in tight to your spine. And inhale into cow. Not only get sensitive about what's going on with your knees and become aware of what's going on with your belly, but maintain that awareness of those ribs. Coming into your cow, letting your ribs flare, spread out, drop down towards the ground. And then as you exhale, pull in those tickle muscles to get a little bit more arch in that middle back, base of the shoulder blades, kind of undenting the ball or removing the dent from the blocks that you might have in the shoulder blade area as you wave back and forth through cat and cow. Pressing into your hands to really staple your hips to your heels, arching your back dramatically. And you might consider leaving that pillow in place because we're going to come back up to hands and knees again. And this time, take the top of your head and tuck it on the floor between your knees. So tuck the top of your head onto the floor, down between your knees. The more you can tuck your head in, the better. Can you get your chin all the way to your chest? Top of your head on the ground. Control how much weight is on your head by using your hands. And if you're brave, you can roll onto the base of your skull. So roll along the line of the mohawk, tucking your chin deep into your chest, lifting your hips up, almost like you're going to flip over into a forward somersault. As you do this, keep your shoulders away from your ears and find your breath. Let your breath blossom into those back ribs, into the shoulder blade region, into that space between your shoulder blades. Now, if this is making you dizzy, claustrophobic, or whatever you might have going on there, where it's not comfortable to put your head on the floor like that, you can do the seated option, which would be to interlace your hands behind your head and just let your elbows be heavy. With the hands at the base of your skull, your chin tucks into your chest, and you get a good stretch across the upper back. Again, better stretch you will receive if you have your shoulders pulled away from your ears. So the sides and the back of your neck are very long. If you're curled up into a ball, if you're doing hair pose on the floor, you can play around with area of focus and intensity by lifting or lowering your hips, rolling onto and off of your head. Whatever you're choosing to do, keep breathing into that space between your shoulder blades. And then slowly release. Everybody comes back up to sit. All right. Once again, big toes curl under. Hands are beneath your shoulders. Do make sure hands and feet are both on the same surface. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat, and press into your hands. As you press into your hands, straighten your arms, but then soften your heart and let those arms plug into your shoulders. So check this out. You might have been wanting to lift your head and have a look at the screen. Check this out. I'm going to push into the floor. Arms stay straight. I'm going to soften my heart. Arms stay straight. I am lifting and lowering my chest without bending my elbows. Arms stay straight the entire time. I'm lifting and lowering my chest. Arms in socket, arms out of socket, in socket, out of socket. We did this one a few moments ago, lying on our backs. Now we're doing it on hands and knees. Now on hands and knees, think about pulling those ribs into your body. Same instruction you got when you were lying on your back. Keep those front ribs pulled into your body. Good. And now we're going to put those arms into socket. Let your shoulders move away from your ears. Your head is on neutral. Toes curled under, belly pulls in, bottoms up. As you flip your hips up towards the sun, press back towards your heels and come on up into a downward facing dog. I'm going to move my pillow out of the way. so that you can see me sway from side to side. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same. Sway from side to side and feel those side ribs flare. Create more space in your side ribs. Can you pull your hips out of your armpits? So we got acquainted with the front ribs and the back ribs. Now we're getting those side ribs to really stretch. Notice I'm up on my tippy toes and I'm letting my feet pivot all the way to one side and then all the way to the other. Hips swinging wide, side to side. And then eventually come to neutral. Get nice and long and neutral in that downward facing dog. Arms are plugged into socket. Front ribs are pulled away from the floor, up into your body. Knees unlocked. Inner thighs pressing back. Touching inner heels back. And try to breathe into your side ribs. And as you exhale, let those arms sink into socket. Head hangs. Maybe you can turn your head side to side, shaking your head no. Drilling your unicorn horn into the floor between your thumbs. Head doesn't actually touch the floor, just your unicorn horn. So head is off the floor as you drill your horn into the floor between your elbows. Arms are inside. Good strong neck stretch. And then rise up onto tippy toes, bend your knees, come on down and back it up. Take a moment to roll out your wrists. You're going to be coming into a lunge next. And if you're bony and you know it, you might want to have that pillow for your knees. Coming to hands and knees, also locate your blocks because you'll be stepping forward with your right foot and you want to go long. Create a nice long stride between the front foot and the back foot. Inch that front foot forward so far that the toe sticks out past the knee. And let your hips drive forward. Now find your shoulders up and away from your ears, chest turned forward. Use your hands on blocks, bow your head, pull your tummy into your body as you back your hips up, rock back on the front heel. So chin is tucked, tail is tucked. Think about your cat pose. Tucking your chin, tucking your tail. Breathing into your back ribs. And then shift forward to come to a kneeling or a proposal pose. So it's more upright. I've not driven my hips all the way forward. My weight is all on the back knee. If I wanted to, I could pick up the front foot. Proposal pose, down on one knee. Okay, blocks are nearby. Shoulders up, back and down. If this is your right leg in front, you're going to put your right hand on your lap. And with an inhale, stretch your left arm up. Want to make sure those ribs stay pulled in though. So the arm went up, the ribs stayed in, breathing into the heart. Right hand on your lap for balance. And then with your left palm towards the midline of your body, you're going to tip over into a side stretch. Let your left side ribs open. Now right hand might find a block or stay on your lap, whatever works best for you. And breathe. Chin is slightly tucked. Back of your neck is long. And we're not down in our lowest, deepest lunge. We're doing this more for the side stretch and the challenge of breathing into those side ribs. Also notice in this profile view, I'm not really doing a back bend. I'm not sweeping this top arm back. I'll do that the second time around. This is just a side bend, a pure side bend. So not much of a lunge, not much of a back bend, but a whole lot of side stretch. And then with an inhale, lift that top arm up and release, and let's switch sides. So left foot goes forward. Again, I do recommend lots of padding underneath that right knee because you'll be putting a lot of weight on it. But first, step one is to cut down low into that lunge. Notice the distance I have between my feet here. The front foot at the front edge, the back foot as close as I can get it to the back edge. I'm using up that length, that full yoga mat. Then hands on blocks, Back it up. Tuck your tail, tuck your chin, round your back, rock back on your heel. Go for a bit of a hamstring stretch down the back of your leg. And a little bit more of that cat pose action, that exhalation, pulling in your front ribs, poking out your back ribs, tucking your tail, tucking your chin. You know, if you really wanted to play around with it, you are down on one knee. Think about dragging that knee forward, dragging your hands backward towards it to pull your tummy in even tighter. And then let's come into that proposal pose. It's not really a deep lunge, it's an upright lunge. Like a 90-degree. The knee at the hip, at the hip, at the knee, at the ankle. Shoulders up, back and down. Blocks are there to help catch you just in case. There's not only length, but there is some width between the feet too for better balance. Okay, left hand will be in your lap, right arm shoots up. Keep those ribs tucked in. And then over into a side stretch. Left hand can be on your lap or left hand can be on a block. Breathing into those side ribs. So front ribs are tucked in, side ribs expanding. Maybe a little breath in the back ribs too. But mostly this is pure side stretch. Not a back bend, not a deep lunge, all side stretch. And breath awareness, breathing into those side ribs. And then when inhale, lift that top arm up. And let's go back to that first side, the one with the right foot forward. Right foot forward, nice long, low lunge. I'm leaving my back toes curled under for this one and making sure that pinky toe is tucked under too. Bowing forward, straightening your arms, backing your hips up, maybe lifting that back knee up. Maybe turning this into a modified pyramid pose. The modification is the front foot. Just a different angle than what you might be used to. I'm pushing into my hands, pressing into back heel, stretching that left heel back, 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 left inner heel stretching back hard. Breathing into back ribs, pulling front ribs in, piston arms, pushing arms down hard into those blocks, tucking tail, tucking chin. Breathing into that space between the shoulder blades. And then soften. Setting that back knee down is a bit of a relief. We're doing that upright proposal pose, not a full deep lunge. I have my back toes curled under, which makes this much wobblier than it needs to be. So I'm going to untuck those toes. Make sure I untuck those toes so I don't wobble all over the place so bad. Because I'm higher up, center of gravity is lifted. It is a little bit harder to balance. Right hand in the lap or right hand on the block in just a moment. Left arm up, over into a side stretch. Right hand can find the block. Now here's the challenge. You can add in, after you get one or two good side breaths here, you can add in that lunge and back bend, as long as you can keep breathing. If you want to drop it lower into a deeper lunge and maybe arch into a bit of a back bend, that's up to you. You arch into that back bend, think about squeezing that bottom shoulder blade, the right shoulder blade in towards your spine. And let your heart open up a little bit more. The challenges will be to breathe, and you keep breathing. And then to come out of this end scene, you're going to take your hand, drag it down your forehead to your third eye, to your chin, to your heart, and out of the pose. Let's switch sides. You go long, taking that left knee forward. Nice long, low lunge with the back toes curled under. Back toes curled under. Hips driving down low. Shoulders are down away from your ears. And now you're going to kind of do the cat thing. Gonna exhale, pull your tummy in, push into your hands, lift your hips up, stretch your right heel straight back, heel your left toes up. So this is a variation on pyramid pose. I've got my toes up. It is a little rougher on the heel than what you're used to. If you needed to put that foot down flat, you would put it down flat. And the big toe would probably go where the heel is right now. So it'll be a slightly shorter stance. This is really kind of a hybrid pose. I've got hands like directly underneath my shoulders, arms are like pistons. I am pushing as much weight off the floor as I can. Pulling my belly, pulling my ribs away from the floor. And then when you bend that back knee down to the floor, what a relief it is to put all your weight on that right knee. Left hand or left elbow in your lap. Block at your side if you want it there. Most of your weight on the right leg. Right arm up and over into a great big side stretch. Pace yourself. Take 2 or 3 deep, establishing, foundational, stabilizing breaths here. And then if it works for you, add in the lunge, add in the back bend. Make sure you tuck that left shoulder blade underneath your back. Add that side stretch, back bend, deep lunge. And then to come out of this, you're going to end the scene. So drag your hand down your third eye to your nose, to your chin, to your chest, and all the way out of the pose. Move the clutter. Toes curled under, hands and knees. Inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Inhale for cow. Leave your sit bones nice and perky like they are in cow, but then as you exhale and move into cat, pull in those front ribs, pull in your belly, and lift your hips up. Head drops down, letting those arms plug into your downward facing dog. Feet go as wide apart as the mat. You let your hips swing side to side as you walk towards the front edge of your mat, swaying from side to side as you go. Maybe coming up onto fingertips. Bend your knees. And with a reverse swan dive, inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, press your breath out, pull your belly in. Great big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, release. All right, you're going to step your feet nice and wide. Really knowing where our front ribs, our side ribs, and back ribs are in space relative to where our hips and pelvis, arms and legs, all these other body parts are. Always being aware of what's going on in the rib cage, the lower ribs, this circle, this band around your chest. Turn your right toes out. Kick your left heel away. Take a great big inhale. And tip on over into that triangle pose. Now the bottom hand can be on a block on the outside of your ankle or resting lightly on your shin. Top arm in the air, palm turned forward, front ribs pulled in, arm in socket. And then turning that armpit towards your face, keep that arm in socket and bring it alongside your ear. Imagine somebody coming by to tickle you in those front ribs. Can you tuck in your front ribs and maybe lift some weight off the bottom hand? And then with an inhale, come all the way up and release. Let's switch sides. Left toes turn out, right toes turn in. Your block is on the outside of the ankle, ready to go. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, tip on over to triangle pose. The challenge is to keep this front knee from bearing any weight. You want to keep it unlocked. Prevent any pressure at all from translating. Any of the weight from your shoulders travel down your hands. Your hand weighs nothing. You're not quite there yet. Your hand is on a block. It's not a flexibility thing. It's a strength thing. Top hand in the air, turning your chest open. And then adjust your chest by breathing into the various rib areas. What happens if you contract, pull in, retract those front ribs? What happens if you let your side ribs expand, especially the side ribs on the bottom? Expand into those bottom side ribs. And again, check in with those back ribs. Make sure your lower back is long. And then with an inhale, come all the way up. That was so much fun. Let's do it again. After you get 3 or 4 or 5 breaths into it, bones start to settle in, muscles start to release. The only ones that need to hold are doing the holding. And it just changes. The pose evolves. Exhaling over into that triangle pose. But giving yourself space to do that breath exploration rather than racing to the floor, releasing, collapsing, or whatever you're doing to the floor. Think about getting up in the air, lifting pressure off yourself. Take the weight off. Take a load off. No weight on this right knee. No weight in the right hand. Positioning your chest by breathing. And again, a variation would be to bring that top arm alongside your ear. And then come all the way up. We got to do that arm stretch on the other side. All right, so tipping over into the triangle pose Trikonasana on the left side, switching sides. So we're on the second side, the second time. Make sure that knee is unlocked, toes are relaxed. You have arches in your feet. Chest is open. Are your legs and hips strong enough to let you explore your ribs? And then come all the way up. Now let's switch. Move to the center. Toes turn in, heels turn out. Knees unlocked. Hands come to your inner thighs as you flip your buns up towards the sun and hinge on over. Have those blocks nearby if you want, so that you have something to rest your elbows on. The elbows on blocks. Now, elbows on blocks or hands on the floor, whatever you choose to do. Keep your elbows fairly narrow and elbows directly underneath your shoulders so that any weight at all that you bear on your hands or elbows can shift up to put the arm bones into the shoulder joints and pull the shoulders away from your ears so that you can hang your head down heavier and the very top of your head dives down towards the ground. So your arms are really plugged in. Top of your head down towards the ground. Knees are unlocked. Toes are turned in. Pinky toes flare. Sit bones flare because you're pressing your heels wide, but you're keeping your knees unlocked. And you're breathing. And a few moments, a thought or two after the, oh my God, how long is she going to leave us here thought, that's when the magic happens. When you only have to do what you have to do to stay here. And then slowly come on up. All right, making your way down to the ground, any way that works for you. Going to keep opening things up by doing a frog pose. Now there's a couple different bekasanas or frog poses. This one is a continuation of this inner thigh stretch, opening up the hips. But we're going to be putting ourselves in a position in which you have to really control your breath, your ribs, this band, to keep your spine neutral. Always thinking of your spine being like a straight line, I've seen people use a broomstick to exemplify how your spine should be in various yoga poses. So imagine a broomstick running along your back. I got a couple blocks here, but you're wondering what I was doing with those. You could stack one block on top of the other, cover it with some padding, because one block on top of the other covered with some padding is going to go at the pubic bone. Fun stuff. So you're going to mount that, get up on top of it, and then let your pubic bone, pubic symphysis, rest on it so that it really relaxes and your knees go wide. And hopefully you have enough height here. You might have to adjust this one. Play with stacking blocks or pillows or whatever you have so that you're feeling really solid on it. And these knees are in line with the hips. Okay? Like a 90-degree bend at the hip, 90 at the knee, 90 at the ankle. Right. And the hips are well enough supported that my lower back is flat. If you run your hand up and down your lower back, you should feel like you could put a plate on it. Put a dinner plate there. It's nice and level and flat. Supported. Elbows come underneath your shoulders. Head hangs. Shoulders pull away from your ears. Chin tucks to your chest so you can pull your front ribs up into your body. And notice what that does. Pulling your front ribs up into your body shifts a little bit more weight down into that pubic bone area. And it tips your hips in such a way that you get a deeper, different hip stretch. And before your eyeballs roll into the back of your head, think about breathing into your side ribs all the way up into your armpits. And notice what that does for you. And then finally breathe into those back ribs. And start all over again. So at least 3 or 4 or 5 breaths into this. Maybe your bones are settling in. Maybe your muscles have stopped fighting. Well, by now that lower back should be ready to party. So you're going to pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly, contract like you're dragging elbows and knees towards one another. And then elbow walk backwards. As you click your heels together, elbow walk backwards. So you swing your toes in, elbow walk backwards. Press yourself on up. Can you come up with your legs still wide? Wide. Maybe find some balance. It's a bit of a challenging one. You really have to be able to pull in your tummy, zip up your tight pants, tuck your ribs in, and breathe into those back ribs to get more and more upright. The funky hip stretch. But you can only get that hip stretch by controlling your ribs. Then bail out when you've had enough of that. Oh. All right, time to come on down. Finish the way we started, lying down on our backs with your toys nearby. You tuck that ball between your knees. Your other toys nearby, but out of the way. You want to put a pillow underneath your head, you could do the pillow underneath your head thing. That's nice. Ball between your knees. Knees are bent, feet are flat. If you don't have a ball, a block can go between your knees. I recommend foam blocks, not a wooden block. I'd hate for you to put like a slippery wooden block in there and have it fall on your big toe. So don't even do a wooden block. But these foamy ones are a squishy ball. Who cares if you goof up and drop it? You're not going to break a toe. So no wooden heavy blocks between your knees. You're going to tick-tock side to side. The ball or the block keeps you from letting your knees go too far from one another. Do a couple of those, and then you can play around with going side to side with your toes off the floor. So swimming side to side with your toes off the floor, the challenge is to keep those front ribs tucked in. Try to find breath space into those side ribs to glue your back down a little better onto the floor. And then really secure your torso to the floor by breathing into those back ribs. And then you do the whole thing all over again. Breathing into those front ribs, making sure they're tucked in. Breathing into your side ribs, making sure your back is stuck to the floor. And even breathing into those back ribs, securely fastened. And then when you've had enough of that, when doing abs actually just turned into doing this rib breathing thing, that's pretty rad. Get to come on down and release. Take some great big rib cage breaths. And then we'll take a twist. Right knee bent, foot flat, left leg crosses over. So left leg on top of right, like you got a piece. Squeeze your legs together. Let both knees fall over to the right. Feel that left side waist. Big stretch. Big breaths. And then untangle and come on back. And let's do the other side. So left knee bent, left foot flat, right leg goes up and over like you're sitting cross-legged on a parade float, big dress. Belly pulled in, front ribs tucked in, and let the legs go across to the left side. And then find some breath. I think sometimes we get into this pose and there's muscles that catch hold of that diaphragm, that band, and it's having us tighten and guard our ribs. And if only we were able to breathe into our rib cage a little bit more, the lower back would give, side ribs would open, the shoulder would drop. Just get a deeper twist without feeling like you're on the edge of too far. And then release. All right, and it is nap time. So stretching full out, flat out if you like, doing fancy stuff with balls, belts, blankets, bolsters, whatever. Make yourself comfortable. And just notice how much of your back ribs, space between your shoulder blades, touching the ground. Notice how deeply you can breathe. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Wiggle your jaw, wiggle your nose. Stretching, moving, even yawning. Eventually make your way over onto your side. And keep rolling on over. Eventually finishing seated any way you like. Take a deep breath. Hopefully you have fun breathing for the next half hour, evening. Keep on breathing as long as you can remember to keep breathing. With your hands together at your heart. Namaste. Have a lovely day.